This is a story about thoughts, about hunger, and about control. Some say they come from the stars. Others say they fell from time itself. But we know them by a simpler name, Mind Flayers. They do not kill for sport or gold. They do not speak. They do not warn. They reach into your mind quietly, and when they leave, you are no longer yourself. Beneath their cities of stone, a single presence watches all. It dreams in thought, floats in memory, and pulls every string. It is not a king nor a god, but something colder, the elder brain. So lie down, close your eyes, and let the story unfold slowly, like a thought slipping through fog. We begin where all thoughts do, in the dark. Beneath the earth, where the roots of mountains sleep, there are places untouched by sun or time. No birds sing there, no wind stirs the air, and the walls do not echo with laughter or song. Instead, they remember. In silence. These halls are not abandoned. They are watching. In the forgotten corners of the Underdark, far beyond the reach of dwarves or dark elves, lie cities carved not by hand but by will. Smooth, unnatural, without decoration or pride. Corridors that curve without reason. Rooms with no doors, no purpose, no sound. They are cold not because of the stone, but because of what lives there. Not beasts, not ghosts. Mind Flayers. Ancient, hungering, and patient. These are the domains of the Illithid, known in common tongue as Mind Flayers, creatures so alien that even the bravest scholars hesitate to speak their name aloud. Not because of fear, but because names give power. And to name them is to invite attention. You may have heard rumors of tentacled faces, of psionic powers, of minds torn open in silence. But these are fragments, like glimpses of a storm through the window. What waits inside the storm is far more terrifying and far more elegant. Mind Flayers do not conquer with armies. They do not burn villages or break walls. They break ideas. They infiltrate, manipulate, and reshape. Their weapon is the mind, and their battlefield is thought itself. Long ago, their kind ruled empires, vast realms that stretched across plains, where stars were mere stepping stones and free will was a myth. Every mind was part of a single design. Every memory belonged not to the self, but to the whole. Every individual thought was a whisper in a great collective. And at the center of each hive, submerged in pools of psychic residue, floating in timeless silence, rests the heart of their power, the elder brain. It is not merely a leader. It is the mind of minds. A collection of thoughts harvested across centuries. A slow and powerful consciousness that does not forget, does not sleep, and does not forgive. To understand the Mind Flayers, you must first understand this. They are not individuals. They are extensions of a greater will. Each one a strand of a web spun from pure intention, pure thought. This is what makes them so dangerous. They do not act from hunger, though they are always hungry. They do not act from cruelty, though their actions can be cruel. They act with purpose, with patience, and with silence. There are no drums in their wars. No banners, no mercy, only certainty. And when you feel a flicker of doubt in your thoughts, when a memory feels lighter than it should, when you speak words that were not yours, that is when you know they are near. They wait beneath the world, not buried, but watching. They do not dream. They remember. Chapter 1. The nature of Mind Flayers. They do not breathe like we do. They do not speak as we speak. And yet, they understand us better than we understand ourselves. A Mind Flayer, at first glance, may seem like something out of a nightmare. A tall, gaunt creature with pale violet skin, elongated fingers, and a head where a face should be, covered in a tangle of writhing tentacles. No eyes, no mouth as we know it, and yet it sees you. It hears you. It reads the very currents of your thoughts before you even form them into words. But to understand what they are, we must go beyond appearance. A Mind Flayer, or Illithid, is not a monster. It is the end result of a process, a conclusion to a design, a being stripped of instinct, of doubt, of individuality. It is intellect made flesh, and will sharpened into purpose. They live in colonies, but not like ants or wolves. Each Illithid shares a psychic link with all others in its hive. Their thoughts bleed into each other. Their emotions ripple outward like water in a still pool. And at the center of this psychic lattice is the elder brain, a mass of neural tissue that acts as the core of their being. Imagine waking and not knowing where your own thoughts end and another's begin. Imagine silence that is never truly silent, because the collective mind is always humming, always speaking without voice. That is the world of a Mind Flayer. They do not eat in the traditional sense. What they hunger for is intellect, the raw essence of thought. They feed on brains, not from cruelty, but from necessity. Ingesting a brain allows them not only to sustain their bodies, but to absorb memories, skills, even pieces of identity. In this way, they are not merely predators. They are collectors of minds. And once a mind is taken, it is not gone. It becomes part of the Illithid forever. Sometimes, if you listen closely, you can hear them murmur things they never learned, recall faces they've never seen, speak in voices that no longer exist. Fragments, stolen from those they've devoured. But they are not mindless beasts. Far from it. They are thinkers, planners, philosophers of domination. They believe that freedom is a flaw, that individuality breeds chaos, and that all minds should serve one perfect will, their own. This belief is not taught. It is embedded into their essence. You see, each Mind Flayer was once something else. It began life as a tadpole, a tiny creature birthed in the briny pool that surrounds the elder brain. That tadpole is inserted into a living host, often a human, elf, or dwarf, and over days, it transforms the host into a new body, a vessel for the Mind Flayer within. The old self dies, but something remains. Flicker, perhaps, a shadow. And so, each Illithid is born of two lives, one erased, one rewritten. They walk in silence not because they are secretive, but because words are clumsy tools. Why speak when you can simply be understood? They shun the light not because they fear it, but because they see with the mind, not with the eyes. They build cities underground not to hide, but because the world above is loud, chaotic, and beneath their concern. To them, we are not enemies. We are raw material. The Mind Flayers are not evil in the way goblins or demons are evil. Their actions are terrifying because they are reasonable from their perspective, logical, purposeful. They do what they do because they believe it is right, not for us, but for the future they seek to rebuild. A future where all thought is unified, where chaos is extinguished, where will belongs not to many, but to one. And if that sounds terrible to you, know this, they would call your fear a symptom of your sickness, the sickness of freedom. To them, the cure is clear. And they are patient. Chapter 2, Ceremorphosis, Birth from the Dead. Every Mind Flayer you see was once someone else. A person, a traveler, a merchant, a soldier, someone who laughed, who feared, who dreamed, someone with a name. But names do not survive ceremorphosis. Ceremorphosis is the process by which a tadpole, spawned in the sacred pools of the elder brain, is implanted into a living host. It is not a violent ritual nor a chaotic one. It is clinical, precise. It is transformation, not destruction. At least, that is how the Illithids see it. The tadpole is small, fragile even, barely the size of a finger. It is translucent, with a single, pulsing brain sac and thin, searching feelers. In the pool, it lives among hundreds of its kind, nurtured by psionic energies and protected by the will of the elder brain. When a colony finds a suitable host, often humanoid, intelligent, and strong of body, the tadpole is placed into their eye socket or ear canal. From there, it wriggles into the brain, burrowing gently at first, then feeding. The host begins to change. At first, there is confusion. Memories begin to unravel. The sense of self starts to fray. Thoughts no longer feel like one's own. They echo, they overlap. And always, somewhere in the mind, there is a whisper, soft, persistent, foreign. The body begins to reject its former shape. The skin shifts, smooths, and turns pale. The limbs grow longer. The face elongates, and the bones soften. The mouth splits and gives way to tendrils. The eyes dim and recede into shadow. And the mind becomes something else. This process takes only a few days, sometimes less. When it is done, the original person is gone. Not dead in the conventional sense, but overwritten. The soul may be shattered, dispersed, forgotten. Or perhaps it lingers, trapped in the dark corners of a brain that no longer belongs to it. Some scholars claim that flashes of the host's identity can resurface in dreams. That a mind flayer, in moments of psychic quiet, might recall a child's laugh, or the smell of a summer road, or a name it never learned. But if that happens, the Illithid does not speak of it. It buries the memory, like a shell shed long ago. To the colony, this is not cruelty. It is evolution. They believe that ceremorphosis is a gift, the cleansing of chaos from the mind, the forging of a higher being. They see the host not as a victim, but as a chrysalis. And the mind flayer that emerges is the butterfly, though far more dangerous and far less delicate. There are rare cases whispered in circles of arcane knowledge, where ceremorphosis does not complete as expected. A host might resist the change, or the tadpole might absorb too much of the original identity. These creatures, twisted hybrids, are called Flayer spawn or partial Illithids. Unpredictable, unstable, and often destroyed by the colony. Even the elder brain will reject what is incomplete. And yet, these flawed creations sometimes escape. And what they carry with them is knowledge no one was meant to keep. To become a mind flayer is to die and be born into service. It is to shed freedom in favor of unity. To trade memory for clarity. To surrender the soul and gain the hive. They do not mourn what is lost. They do not look back. They are made for a future that does not include you. Chapter 3. There is a silence that is not quiet. A silence made not of absence, but of listening. In the deepest chambers of an Illithid colony, that silence lives. And it watches. Suspended in a briny pool of psychic residue floats a mass unlike any other. A wrinkled, fleshy sphere as large as a carriage, pulsing softly with thoughts that are not its own. Nerve-like tendrils extend from its body like roots through the water, through the stone, through the minds of every mind flayer nearby. This is the elder brain. It is not a creature in the traditional sense. It does not hunt, does not move, does not speak aloud. But it is the single most powerful mind in the colony, and its will is law. Each elder brain is a fusion of hundreds of dead Illithids, their brains preserved, merged, and continuously nourished by new additions. When a Mind Flayer dies, its brain is removed with care and added to the pool. But it does not simply decay. It becomes part of the greater mind. Its thoughts, its experiences, its essence are absorbed into the whole. Over time, what remains is no longer a collection of individuals, but a collective consciousness, vast, ancient, and deeply alien. Imagine a mind where memory does not fade, where every moment is catalogued, accessible, alive. Imagine a brain that remembers cities fallen before the rise of humans, that has tasted the surface of dead stars, that can replay the scream of a dying god like a lullaby. The elder brain does not sleep. It contemplates. It reaches out through the minds of the colony, not as a master, but as the mind behind the eyes. The Illithids do not simply follow orders. They are extensions of the elder brain's thought. When they act, it is with shared purpose. When they rest, it is under the quiet hum of its presence, like a child dreaming in a parent's arms. And it is always thinking, plotting, calculating, weaving futures from fragments of the present. It hears every psychic whisper within miles of its pool. It feels disturbances in thought, in fear, in belief. To walk near an elder brain is to feel your secrets slide to the surface. It does not need to ask. It already knows. Some say elder brains can communicate across dimensions, that they form a hidden web of thought between colonies, slow and deliberate, like a nervous system that stretches across the plains. Others believe that all elder brains are fragments of a single original mind, shattered and scattered during the fall of the Illithid Empire. But whether separate or united, their intent is the same: to return. The elder brain remembers the time before time, when Mind Flayers ruled the stars, when entire worlds bent to their thought. It remembers being feared not for what it could do, but for what it had already done. And it wants that power again. This is why the colonies grow. This is why Ceremorphosis continues. Every tadpole born, every host taken, every mind devoured, it all feeds the elder brain, both literally and metaphysically. It does not see you as a person. You are a page in a book it has not yet read. You are an echo of a thought it has already predicted. And should you ever come close enough to feel its presence, truly feel it, you will not hear a voice or a scream or a word. You will feel certainty, the knowledge that you were always going to belong to it, that your will was a temporary illusion, that the mind you thought was yours was only borrowed, and it wants it back. Chapter 4. The Illithid Empire, Before Time. Long before elves sang beneath silver trees, before dwarves carved kingdoms in stone, before the gods walked among mortals, the Illithid Empire reigned. It is not merely a legend. It is a scar upon the multiverse. Their empire had no borders, only reach. Across worlds, across planes, across time. Not with ships or armies, but with portals, thoughts, and domination of will. They called it the Age of Domination, and they meant it in full. Countless species served beneath their shadow, not as slaves in chains, but as vessels, empty, silent, obedient. Cities floated above alien skies, sculpted by thought alone, crafted not for beauty, but for control. Every structure, every wall, every street designed to funnel minds, shape behaviors, and suppress resistance. There were no revolts. Not because the people were content, but because they forgot how to resist. The Illithid Empire was not ruled by a single monarch, but by elder brains, each colony a node in a vast psychic web. Decisions were made not with debate, but with consensus of thought. Disagreement was impossible, because all minds were one. Even time bent to their will. Some scholars believe the Illithids came from the far future, that they collapsed back into the past to escape a dying world. Or perhaps to create it. This theory, called the tadpole paradox, suggests they are caught in a loop, seeking to rebuild the empire they already remember, one that has not yet happened. But whether from the future or beyond, one truth remains. Their empire fell. No kingdom lasts forever. Not even one built on thought. The rebellion did not begin with armies, but with a thought. A single mind that dared to think something different. That mind belonged to the Gith. The Gith were once servants, hosts, broken and reshaped like so many others. But something in them resisted. A spark, a fracture. It spread like a crack in glass. One broke free, then two, then 1,000. They began to remember who they were. And the Illithid, for the first time in eons, knew fear. The war that followed shattered the stars. Worlds burned. Planes collapsed. And in the end, the Gith, now split into Githyanki and Githzerai, but it was not victory. It was survival. The Illithid empire crumbled. Elder brains were slain or went into hiding. Colonies scattered like embers, falling deep into the Underdark and the forgotten corners of the worlds. But they did not die. They remembered. They planned. And now, in whispers and shadows, they rebuild. Each colony is a seed of empire. Each tadpole, a soldier not yet born. Each elder brain, a general in a war that has never truly ended. And the worst part is this. The Mind Flayers have all the time in the world. They do not rush. They do not forget. And above all, they do not forgive. Chapter 5, Enemies and Resistance. To understand the danger of the Mind Flayers, you must also understand those who resist them. Because resistance is not a battle, it is a burden. A fight not just for life, but for thought itself. The first, and most legendary, of their enemies are the Gith. Long ago, the Gith were enslaved by the Illithids. Not through chains, but through thoughts. They served as vessels, hosts, walking shells emptied and reshaped through ceremorphosis. But something in them refused to die. A fragment of self. A memory that would not fade. And from that seed grew rage. Under the leadership of a warrior queen named Gith, they rose. First in secret, then in flame. They waged a war not of swords alone, but of memory. Each battle was not just survival, it was reclamation. The Gith split after their victory. The Githyanki, who turned their pain into conquest, hunting Mind Flayers through astral ships and silver blades. The Githzerai, who turned inward, building monastic strongholds of pure thought to resist the temptations of domination. Both remember their past, and both still hate, but they are not alone. The dwarves and elves speak of ancient encounters, stories half lost in myth, of travelers vanishing, cities emptied overnight, and whispers beneath the stone. Wizards, too, fear the Illithids. Not because of raw power, but because a Mind Flayer devours more than flesh. It consumes knowledge, stealing decades of study in a single, silent moment. Many mages have built protections around their minds, weaving runes to ward off psionic intrusion, dreaming with one eye open. The Illithid hunters, rare, often solitary, dedicate their lives to studying and slaying the Flayers. Some carry psychic scars, voices that never leave, and memories that don't belong to them. They are not always sane, but they are determined. And then there are the gods. Few deities intervene directly. Some say they fear the elder brains. Others say they are simply forgotten in the Underdark. But among clerics of light and thought, the Mind Flayers are seen as an affront, a mockery of free will. Some divine orders have begun to train psionic paladins, minds as sharp as swords, armor built not of steel, but of focus. Yet for all these enemies the Illithids persist, because they do not fight fair. They do not meet you in battle. They meet you in dreams, in doubt, in the split-second hesitation before thought becomes action. And most terrifying of all, sometimes the enemy is already inside you. There are stories, whispered, never proven, of entire councils, kings, or wizard circles infiltrated by Mind Flayers. Not replaced, not killed. Just guided. Because the true war isn't for the world. It's for the story the world tells itself. And the Mind Flayers are very good storytellers. Chapter 6, Psionics. Power without sound. There are no spells. No gestures, no incantations. No wands, no glyphs, no arcane tomes. And yet, when a Mind Flayer acts, the world bends. This is not magic. It is psionics, the art of pure thought, sharpened into force. Where a wizard must speak, a Mind Flayer need only will. Where a cleric must call upon a god, the Illithid calls only on itself. Psionics is power without symbol. It is not granted, not studied. It is inherent, woven into the folds of their brains, like gravity beneath the surface of reason. When a Mind Flayer walks through a city, it is not seen. But people step aside. Not from fear, but from something subtler. A quiet pressure behind the eyes. A sense that one should not interfere. That is psionics at rest. When awakened, it becomes a storm. With a glance, an Illithid can crush the mind of another. Not in blood and bone, but in the silence where identity lives. Memories fracture. Language vanishes. Emotion becomes static. The victim may fall screaming or smiling. The body may live for a moment longer. But the self is already gone. They can project mental barriers, invisible and seamless, turning thoughts into walls stronger than iron. They can cast illusions that touch all five senses, not as images, but as full psychic experience. And at the height of their power, they perform the mind blast, a wave of psychic force that radiates in a cone, leaving all caught within stunned, paralyzed, their minds ringing with noise only they can hear. It is said that when a Mind Flayer prepares to attack, the air itself trembles, not with sound but with expectation. To resist psionics is not a matter of armor or swordplay. It is a matter of will, of mental fortitude, of shielding your thoughts in silence and clarity. Few manage it. Most do not even know they were under attack until they find themselves kneeling, hands trembling, their own names slipping from memory. Some Illithids, especially the elder among them, can link minds across vast distances, coordinate entire colonies without ever speaking a word. To fight one is often to fight them all. And the elder brain? It is psionics incarnate. Its mere presence warps thought. To stand near it is to feel your certainty unravel, to doubt the truth of your own memories. Psionics is not loud. It does not crackle or blaze. It does not leave scorch marks on stone. It leaves only quiet and the distant echo of what was once you. Chapter 7, The Elder Brain's Long Game. In a world where empires rise and fall within generations, the Elder Brain plays a different game. It does not care for years or even centuries. It does not fear death, for it does not die. It does not act in haste, for it remembers how to wait. Where others live by momentum, expansion, conquest, emotion. The elder brain lives by design. And every colony, every tadpole, every mind flayer is part of the pattern. You see, the elder brain is not simply a ruler. It is a conductor orchestrating thoughts and movements across planes of existence. Each plan it makes spans decades. Each failure is just a recalculation. You destroy a colony, it observes. You slay a mind flayer, it adjusts. You think you have one, it smiles in silence. Because its goal is not revenge. Its goal is return. The Illithid Empire once ruled the stars. The elder brain remembers this. And it does not dream of restoration, it plots it. But this time, it will be subtler. It will not build towers or fleets. It will build minds. It will infiltrate courts, libraries, guilds. It will twist prophecy, corrupt memory, rewrite history. Not loudly, not quickly, but precisely. Already, some say, the elder brains speak to one another. In frequencies no mind can detect, in logic loops that span timelines. Some believe they are becoming one again. A metaconsciousness beyond language. A mind large enough to span a multiverse. And what does such a mind desire? Order, efficiency, unity. A world where all thoughts are streamlined. Where freedom is seen for what it truly is. A malfunction. To resist it is not simply to survive. It is to outthink something older than your species. And here lies the true horror. It doesn't hate you. It doesn't even recognize you as important. You are noise. Static. A misplaced tile in its pattern. You could spend your life fighting it, win 100 battles, slay a dozen colonies, but as you sleep, in the quiet moments between thoughts, you may still feel it watching, not because it's near, but because it never left. Chapter 8, Conclusion, the Illusion of Resistance. We often imagine ourselves as the heroes of our stories. Slayers of monsters, seekers of truth, defenders of freedom. But what if the monster does not care? What if the truth slips through our fingers, not because it hides, but because we were never meant to grasp it? The mind flayers, and above them the elder brains, exist beyond the shape of ordinary conflict. They do not charge the gates. They do not deliver speeches. They simply are. They wait, they think, they grow. We measure victories by what we see. A battle won, a stronghold taken, a colony burned. But the elder brain does not measure in such terms. It measures in possibilities. And when it loses one path, it merely shifts to another. And so, even as adventurers brandish swords, even as spells flash and armies march, the elder brain watches. Not with fear, but with curiosity. It already knows the ending. It wrote it before you ever entered the page. Your resistance is not unwelcome. It is part of the pattern. The test before assimilation. The dance before the silence. Because in the deepest quiet of the Underdark, where thoughts drift like mist and memories have weight, the mind flayers wait. Not for war. For inevitability. Thank you for listening. A new episode will be released every day, exploring more forgotten corners of fantasy worlds. If you enjoyed this journey, consider subscribing, and let us know in the comments which creature, story, or realm you'd like to hear about next. Sleep well.